Today, somewhere on Earth is off to discover the Hawaiian Islands in the heart of the North Pacific. An archipelago made up of 8 islands and a string of atolls. No dazzling white sand or barrier reefs, but landscapes in constant flux, sculpted by the whims of the sea, storms, and volcanic eruptions. Hawaii is a living land, a dynamic force. Here, man is dwarfed by nature, whose unbridled force rules supreme. Scott has been living on Kauai for 12 years. He explores the rugged landscape from the Waimea Canyon to the Napali Coast. This is one of the cradles of the Hawaiian civilization, home to the island's earliest inhabitants. Oahu is known the world over for its impressive winds and waves. Yuko has found her niche in life here. She's a sailplane pilot, always on the lookout for the slightest breeze to satisfy her passion. Olivier, a French astronomer, spends a good part of his time on the summit of Big Island, the roof of the archipelago. At 4,207 meters, the peak of the dormant volcano Mauna Kea is a window onto the stars where Olivier probes the depths of the universe.
It's a bit like the monasteries of the Middle Ages, because there's a search for knowledge, and we work alone. We're on a modern spiritual quest, the scientific quest.
Kauai is 5 million years old and the oldest of the Hawaiian Islands. Erosion has left its mark, sculpting its dizzying cliffs and plunging canyons. Kauai is the 4th largest island. 80% of its surface is completely virgin territory. They call it the Garden Island. Kauai has no large town. The inhabitants are ardent defenders of their rural way of life. They've even passed a law that no building be erected higher than the coconut trees. Even today, those who live here consider their island as a sacred gift from their ancestors. Scott, a New Yorker, doesn't have Hawaiian blood, but he's a firm believer in this heritage. It wasn't really part of his plans to settle on an island. He came here on vacation and never left. In 1999, he became a guide. He and his friend Don, a helicopter pilot, spend their time searching out abandoned trails used by the early inhabitants of the island some 1,500 years ago.
Smart 5 is approaching Hanalei Ridge for Lumahai Saddle for Waimea on the reverse, 2000.
That little false summit right there, it looks like it might be kind of difficult to traverse.
Yeah, it would be really difficult. That trail has eroded away with many years. Nobody's never hiked it in a long time. A lot of Hawaiians like me, I'm a quarter Hawaiian, my dad's half Hawaiian. I get a feeling of a presence of my own ancestors that are still with me when I look at the paths. That I'm a lucky guy that lives on an island in the middle of nowhere. I'm just a really lucky guy, away from a lot of things. It's a lot of challenges for us to fly around the island. And also, you see a lot of things that nobody else gets to see out here. No one.
Okay, so instead of going to Waialeale, why don't we head over to the ridge towards
Yeah, the weather looks good, so we can go ahead and head over the valley over to Waimea.
Look at that, it's going all the way up there to the top.
So here we are at the end of the world, basically. It appears as if we've walked right up to the edge of the earth and then drops off, and there it is, the Pacific Ocean. You've got 2,800 miles to Japan and Asia from here, and not much in between. Islands to the northwest called the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, mainly inhabited by monk seals and seabirds. Not much else, so we're the most isolated landmass in the world, just out here. And when we come out here on the edge of the Napali Coast, it's literally, you're walking to the edge of the world. I don't feel isolated here. I feel at home here. It's part of our world, and it's a very special place where we have a lot of clarity, a lot of vision. The Hawaiian people, they say that they call it the pico, which is the navel or the belly button of the world. And so everything that starts here, and then it ripples out into the world.
The ocean off Kauai often gives a magnificent spectacle.
I love being up here on the top. You know, here we are 1,000 meters above the sea, and it gives you this perspective where you can see the whales, you can see their shadows, you can see their water spouts, you can see their fins, their pec fin slabs, so their tails come up, and if you're really lucky, you get to see a full breach where it comes up and then splashes out into the water.
For countless Americans, Hawaii has always been a magical name that stirs the imagination. Jack London was one of those who initiated that legend. The globe-trotting writer, author of White Fang, was fascinated by these islands. In 1907, he left everything behind and set out with a crew on an epic voyage across the Pacific, aboard his sailboat, the Snark. He left San Francisco in April, and it took nearly 2 months to reach the Hawaiian Islands. Upon arriving, he was awestruck. In his words, "For 27 days, we had been on the deserted deep, and it was pretty hard to realize that there was so much life in the world. We were made dizzy by it." And Kauai is the embodiment of that dizziness. The Napali Coast is made up of 5 valleys protected by an imposing natural palisade. 1,500 years ago, these canyons, carved out of the rock by the wind and rain, were home to a thriving civilization, unlike any other in the islands.
Down here, all these valleys were populated by Hawaiian people in the ancient days. That's why there are ancient trails going in and out of all of these valleys and along the coast. Each watershed or each valley was ruled by a particular chief of that valley, and it was divided into 2 parts. So the part by the ocean was for fishing, and the part towards the upper part of the valley was for farming, and they traded with each other. And you can still see a lot of old rock walls and archaeological ruins down there.
The mist rolls in suddenly, covering the chasms and swallowing up the landmarks. For certain people, this is a sign that the gods are present.
And when the fog comes in, it rolls in very quickly. And if you're out there on the pali or on the walls of the canyon, you won't be able to see anything. You'll get totally shut out, and that could be dangerous.
Even today, Kauai is known throughout the Pacific for its vegetation. Some of its species are found nowhere else on Earth. When the early settlers landed here, they discovered a fertile, generous land. This natural luxuriance is a continuing marvel. The 18th century was the golden age of exploration. Expeditions followed one after another. There was Bougainville, the Frenchman, James Cook, the Englishman, who made the first European contact with the islands when he landed in Hawaii in 1778.
Ancient Hawaiian people lived down here, the Kua'aina, primarily because of the resources that were available in the area. There's springs down there to give fresh water. The river water was very easy to divert to create loi, which is what they use for farming. It's an irrigation system for farming kalo or taro. So they lived back here. Also, it provided protection because if you're deep in a canyon and you have lookouts, there's natural barriers and boundaries. So anybody who was coming in would have to come from only one direction, and it would be very easy to defend. This island of Kauai had 5 times the population that it does now in ancient times. And that means that when we go off the trail from what is now used, we're often we're following in the ancient footsteps of our ancestors, the Hawaiian ancestors, and we're finding many hidden secrets there.
The cliffs, the mist, and the vegetation deepen the mystery of the Napali Coast. Totally inaccessible in certain spots, the 5 valleys jealously guard their secrets. Unraveling them means taking the pulse of the island.
To be out here, it feels alive, and I feel just blessed to be here because not only am I in an incredibly beautiful place, I'm in an incredibly beautiful place that hasn't really been affected by mankind very much. So it's truly nature out here.
It's easy to see how Kauai can cast a spell on travelers. The Hawaiians call this enchantment the mana. It's the breath of the spirits, their life force. And this is what Scott believes he has found here. On Oahu, the 3rd largest Hawaiian island, the essential is invisible to the eye. This land, like all the others, is subject to a huge current of air. All the islands are swept by this wind, tirelessly regenerated by the ocean. The winds from the vast Pacific buffet the landscape, reshaping the contours of each island. There's no barrier reef here, so the swell is free to grow into impressive rollers that then break against the shore. People come from all over the world to challenge these breakers. In certain seasons, they can reach several meters in height. On Oahu, the waves are a land unto their own. "15 years ago, Yuko left everything behind to come live on Oahu. Situated in the heart of the archipelago, Oahu is famous for Honolulu, the capital of the Hawaiian Islands. Yuko settled on the far north coast. Wind and waves, two elements indispensable to her life.
Well, splash also, and then also when they suck out back to the ocean, such an energy is coming here. So my heart is beeping all the time once I saw it. And if I don't see just a beautiful, calm day, it's all right, it's pretty, but the more water is bigger and bigger and then giant, makes more excited because we cannot do anything. They are more powerful than we are. I love surfing and flying because very similarity for we have to know by the weather, what kind of weather we have and what kind of weather we have. Same as the water and sky is the same things because we have to read the wind, current, and then everything is always have to think. And I cannot stop thinking, always keep learning to think to have a good time.
The earth and the sky. Yuko has a deep craving for freedom. Here, far from her family, far from her native land, Japan, she has reinvented her life.
Magic every day, especially the winter season. I see the whale from the sky, and also winter time I can check the surf. I'm a surfer and I'm looking for the wave all the time, and definitely I think you enjoy view from here. Sometimes we see Kauai, different island over there, and totally awesome view, spectacular. Flying and surfing is very similar, especially in the glider. And we have a great view all the time. But of course I have to look at land. Make sure nobody land. Yes, beautiful. We can be speed up and slow down and pitch up, and then like a surfing, we call it the over the lip. So this is like a surfing. Then I can go really steep turn and like surfing all the time. So it is similar. And I think that's why mainly I love flying the glider. And no much noise, just wind noise, like a whisper. This is a beautiful toy for me. This is my baby, and also this is my friend and like a family, because without this it's very difficult to enjoy my life. Moment to moment is a change in the wind, and wind sometimes is strong, but suddenly wind is die, and then really different. And I really like that this changes, because changes is always I have to constantly cautious and awake, always know what's going on. I love it.
Yuko is self-taught. She has found fulfillment in her passion for the air that she discovered a few years ago here on Oahu, thanks to some chance encounters. Becoming a pilot and glider instructor has freed her of constraints. Living here means a lot for her. It's an accomplishment. This surfer of the winds always winds up a flight with a visit to the ocean. In Hawaii, all the islanders rise and go to bed with the sun. Every evening, the same ritual takes place. Life comes to a standstill. Every breath is suspended. The islanders pay homage to the grandeur of the Pacific. Yuko has brought a bit of the empire of the rising sun along with her.
Hawaii makes me more opportunities come up open, because multicultural, many Asian, and then many people already understand Japanese culture, so I don't have to explain my background. They already ready for accept me, so I can be open for myself to be open, to be freedom. Sorry, I should go. This is a really patient moment each time, and I love it. I love jiu-jitsu, surfing, and of course flying. But more important here, that is happening in Hawaii. That makes me self really happiness, so complete. Weather is always like this for the scope in the end of the day or early morning.
Yeah, this is a blessing. It's like liquid sunshine, is what we call in Hawaii. It's a blessing. Hawaiians consider this a blessing when there's something of a special occurrence like this, to be blessed with rain.
Every day, Yuko takes fellow pilots up to surf the winds of Hawaii. She has made sharing part of the job.
Why don't you wait a little bit? I'm going to tell you about upwind a little bit.
As soon as the sailplane is released, Yuko sets out in search of waves, the passion of all the islanders. It's part of their way of life. Surfing was invented in Hawaii. The oldest known surfboards were found in the tombs of the chiefs. They're thought to date back to the 14th century. When the early explorers first saw surfers, they couldn't believe their eyes. There's even a legend that the islanders were so skilled with their boards that the Europeans thought they were walking on water. In the time of the ancestors, surfing was a social and religious ritual. By braving the ocean, the surfers could prove their worth and climb the ranks of society. They could even become king. This is what surfing means in Hawaii. Yuko, like the others, is waiting to seize her moment of grace. The fleeting instant when she becomes one with the Pacific.
Especially from Asia, yes. It is not easy to do what I do because I move here for surfing mainly. Then I try to think about what job I can do. I'm creative. I'm not working for somebody else. I'm always create my own job. I like more growing myself to be independent. That's why I needed to live in Hawaii to make myself is very strong female and also strong creature, the human being. So I can be more kindness than just the strengths. I mean, strong woman. I like to have both. So I need to learn that this kind of nature, this nature is always changing every day. I cannot control them. So same as other people, I cannot control other people. So these places, it makes me realize again and again, I cannot control other people as a weather.
Each island has its own world. On Oahu, life unfolds to the rhythm of the wind and waves. $400,000 years ago, the ocean floor broke loose in an upheaval caused by the incredible turmoil in the bowels of the earth. A huge island surged up from the depths of the sea. It's Hawaii, and will give its name to an entire archipelago. Some call it Big Island. This new land is vast, and its volcanoes are enormous. Big Island still evolves according to the whims of the lava flows. The craters are deep chasms that plunge into the depths of the earth. Hidden far beneath the Pacific, the hotspot, as volcanologists call it, creates islands according to its whims. This deep geological phenomenon is the origin of the entire chain of islands. And this is not the end of the story, for in 10,000 or 100,000 years, the hotspot will once again give birth to a new island.
Flying over this island is just spectacular because you can see the lava flows down below, and they seem dynamic even though they're hundreds of years old. You really get a feeling for how the island was formed with layer upon layer upon layer of lava. So that gives the island a very dynamic feeling. The island's really alive.
Olivier is an astronomer. He came here after his studies for on-the-job training and never left. He works in one of the island's most mysterious spots, Mauna Kea, a dormant volcano that rises 4,207 meters above sea level.
When you get to the absolute altitude that the airplane can fly to, those two numbers are the same. So that's what we're approaching right in the middle there. So this is Mauna Kea, the observatories where I work. The one completely on the left there is the Canada, France, Hawaii, where we're observing.
In 1967, some 10 countries pooled their efforts to establish an observatory with the world's most powerful telescopes here on the summit. The extreme altitude and isolation make it a near-perfect site.
Really spectacular. It's such a strange landscape to see man-made objects on, but it makes sense why they were put here.
You really have an impression of isolation. You truly feel far from everything, and in several different ways. In fact, you have the site, which is lost up in the middle of the mountain. There's absolutely nothing around it. And when you look a little further out, you see the Pacific, and you realize that you're on an island that's lost out in the middle of the ocean. So it's truly isolated in all respects. I love this island. I love the quality and pace of life. I love the people. I love the summit of Mauna Kea. It's hard to leave this place, really hard. I feel like the island is part of me, but even more, I feel like I'm part of this island. I really think I've put down roots here.
Olivier, a PhD in astrophysics, has been here since 1997. He was born in Paris, worlds away from the North Pacific. For the past 12 years, he's been exploring all the roads of Big Island. This Frenchie has become a full-fledged Hawaiian biker.
Hawaii doesn't at all fit your typical image of islands in the Pacific. largely on account of the huge volcanoes. You can see for yourself. And also because of the wide open spaces. It's not all about typical postcard cliches of white sandy beaches and palm trees. And what I really like is that even though we're on an island, traveling around here is like visiting other countries. You can visit Switzerland, Ireland, Sweden, wherever you want in 10 to 15 minutes. And that's fantastic.
It's a 2-hour ride up to the top of Mauna Kea. Not only is the mountain quite high, it's also very broad. Anytime he can, Olivier, a true enthusiast, does the trip on his motorcycle. Mauna Kea is a wild, hostile territory. Patches of snow here and there are a reminder that whatever the season, glacial storms can blow up at a moment's notice. At 4,200 meters, the air is thin and poor in oxygen. Just climbing a flight of stairs requires an effort.
Okay, Greg, I made it to the telescope, so...
I think we're ready for dome rotation whenever you are.
Okay. Is it possible to do just deck, or is that too hard in the sense that you have to compute array and deck coordinates?
That would be fine. You want me to go back north a bit?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. You know, bring the telescope up to Park, to Zenith, or something like that.
I have a somewhat emotional bond with this telescope because I did my thesis on an instrument here, so I came when I was a student. And it's a machine from another era, so you still have a real connection with the machine. Sometimes it's an emotional connection, because you spend entire nights observing and it's frustrating, but when it works, it's such a treat. So yes, this telescope has a very special place in my heart.
Yep, it's coming down, and the dome is turning, so it's perfect.
Okay, do you want the dome to move some more?
Olivier's work days are so many sleepless nights. On Mauna Kea, the setting sun is the last respite before the silence of the night. The clouds conceal the other reality, the one down below. Little by little, the terrestrial world gives way to a world of stars and heavenly bodies. If the world's most powerful telescopes are installed here on the summit of Mauna Kea, it's because the sky is among the purest on Earth. There's less turbulence than elsewhere, and the pure air allows one to probe unexplored regions. Mauna Kea enters into a new dimension. This is a gateway to the depths of space, millions of light years away. Human time doesn't count anymore. Here, the astronomers can witness the birth of our universe. At last, the steel cupolas are stirring. The astronomers in their bubbles become lone explorers, roaming from nebula to galaxy. Every observation begins with entering the coordinates, something like giving the address somewhere in the universe.
So the coordinates are 23 hours, 3 minutes and 15.6 seconds, and deck is +8, 52, 25.2 in 2000 equinox. So if you can point the telescope, I'm ready when you are.
When you're on the summit of Mauna Kea, knowing that this is one of the world's best sites for astronomy, whether you're a student or a driven astronomer, there's really something magical. It's unique, very special. There's also a magical side concerning what you may observe. Sometimes it's an instrument that allows you to see the universe in a different way, a way we've never looked at it before, and then you feel the magic. Sometimes it's an observation, discovering a new asteroid or new supernova in a galaxy. You get that same magical feeling because you're in contact with a living universe where things are constantly changing. And that's magic as well. The strange atmosphere you experience on Mauna Kea, I think it's obviously due to the lack of oxygen. Your senses are affected. You're a little slower, a bit more sluggish, and also you perceive things differently. And it's also a bit strange because we're so isolated. There's nobody around. So it's a bit like the monasteries of the Middle Ages. And it really is, in fact, like a monastery because there's a search for knowledge, and we work alone. We're on a modern spiritual quest, the scientific quest. Of course, we're tired after a long night of observing, but this is the reward. So we enjoy the view before going to bed, and then sleep through the day before we get up to start another night. Mauna Kea is the highest mountain in the world, measured from the base of the seabed. It's a mountain that's 13,000 meters from the base to the summit. Everest, with an altitude of 8,000 meters, is higher, but is already on a plateau, so its height is actually less. Mauna Kea is the tallest mountain on Earth.
Treading these desolate expanses is also an encounter with the myths and legends of Big Island. The summit of Mauna Kea is a sacred place.
Mauna means mountain. Kea means white. Mauna Kea is a sacred spot in Hawaiian tradition because it's where the gods of the heavens meet the gods of earth, thus giving birth to humanity. So it's the center of the universe for Polynesians. It's a very sacred spot for them, for all of Polynesia.
This shrine marks the highest point of Hawaii. Mauna Kea is so sacred that the Hawaiians celebrate their most secret rituals here. In the midst of this desert lie the tombs of the great Hawaiian chiefs. The mystery remains intact. As a mark of honor, their remains were placed here as near as possible to the gods. Those who tread this barren desert, swept by the winds and snowed under in winter, find themselves pervaded with an eerie impression, a voyage suspended between heaven and earth. Life seems to be thriving at the foot of the volcanoes. From north to south, east to west, each of the cardinal points has its own specific climate. Big Island is in a restless mood. Whenever he can, Olivier spends time transmitting his passion to his son, teaching him about the planets and stars.
I'm often away doing my observations up on Mauna Kea, and the children aren't allowed up there on account of the lack of oxygen. So this is a way of showing him just what you can see through a telescope and letting him see the wonders of the sky for himself.
This is how you control the telescope. You can tell it what object this way. Okay? Now, maybe we can try. Wait.
Oh, yeah, the sailboat?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You can try lining it up on the sailboat. You remember Saturn?
Yeah.
It's the one with the rings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that.
That one.
And Jupiter?
I remember in the sky map.
Yeah.
It showed Venus was in the Scorpion.
Right. That was for back then. Because that was in summer, right?
According to an Hawaiian legend, the universe was formed from the marriage of darkness and light. In the warm glow of the sunset, the Pacific pays homage in its own way to the mystery of its origins.